Hi everyone, so this is game 6 and finally we are getting to where we want to be, that is to play rated games. We are currently rated at 1600 and we are going to play 15 minutes games with 10 seconds increments, so it's going to be the rapid run that we are going after. And without further ado, let's go. So today we are getting we don't know who we're getting yet. We are getting Miele Boletta, 1672. Yesterday's game I was playing Sicilian as white, and I forgot my preparation after just a simple d5 move of black. So today we are getting the two knights defense in Giucco Piano, and we are transposing to Giucco Pianissimo variation. When the c3 is played, I think we can castle. There will be lines with b4 maybe. The lines with d4 are also possible. Bishop g5, another possible line. So bishop g5 is the line that I don't know yet. So again, 1600 rated player, we are going to do or I am going to do what I'm probably expected to do, play the h6. Since there's no knight c3, knight d5 jump, this plan with bishop h4 doesn't look as dangerous. Okay, so white might like to push the b4 and lock my bishop. So that doesn't have to happen. So normally I play a6, and I'm going to do it even here. I'm still learning the moves as black in this opening, so I still don't understand the differences between the variations. I'm also not sure why some of the moves like bishop g5 are so strong, but all in a good time I will learn everything. And maybe the doubled pawns are kind of dangerous. But then I expect white to be castling long. Queen h6 is an obvious attempt to attack me, of all people. So I'm going to defend with simple king h7 move. There's no other piece to defend the poor old pawn. One of the ideas is to play f5 and free my position. Knight h4 doesn't look too scary at the moment. g4, g5 doesn't look scary either. Maybe what could be potentially scary is some d4 moves, yes. With idea of rerouting the bishop to d3. So I can go with bishop a7. So right now I'm still in a little bit of a pickle here. So this is potentially preventing any f5 pawn push. But I'm still trying to figure out if I can still play it even now. If take, then bishop f5. And if d5, rook e8. I don't know if this is at all safe proposition. I can also reroute the knight to f4. So I would love to play d5, but then I don't have the push e4. I would like to play f5, but then again I don't have the push e4 in time. What I can try and do is to startle white. Just basically ask what the white wants to do with the g2 pawn. And if they're gonna play g4, then for sure I don't want to play f5 anymore, but I will want to go and plant the knight on f4. And maybe prepare plan c6 and e5. So this doesn't give me enough answers. And if I go knight g6, then they will have h4, h5, which is annoying, which is mildly annoying. And I cannot really push d5. After they take, I will not be able to do the move that I want to do. But maybe I can just try and see if they would like to push the pawn instead. So it's going to be a full-on castling on the other side. Not a problem. taking on h3 doesn't look like something I would like to recommend to even my enemies. So I guess move like c5 it is. This bishop is going to be locked in. Move like knight to c4 will be annoying, but it will eventually be parried with the move b5, so I wouldn't worry about it as much. But I want to keep my pieces as flexible as possible, so but he would want to play a5. So what can the knight do here? Yeah, I should not let the knight here. So, okay, I'm going to play queen c7. I just want to remain flexible on the last rank, so I don't want to play bishop e8 or bishop c8 kind of moves. They also look passive, and I still want to have as much flexibility as possible. So for example, f5 I want to have available, and so on. b5 I obviously want to have available if possible. So I'm expecting that white will play a5 themselves, but then I have this kind of move. And I'm going to wait till I can trade for this bishop, maybe. Or I can, in some cases, I can also push the pawn here and then play f6 and then go after this pawn. There's always like lots of possibilities. As long as I have those pawn levers on both sides is good. I mean, computer would probably know already how to beat me from this position, but hopefully the 16 level 100 player wouldn't not. That being said, my opening theory is that of maybe 1200 rated player. I losing confidence after move c3. And I'm out of book completely after move bishop g5. So those are the things that I'm going to be looking at computer after the game later on, today or tomorrow. Let's be honest, castling long doesn't look all that great for white pieces no longer. And b5 looks like the most logical move here. The risk of playing c4. Offering the trade with bishop b5 after a takes b5 would run into c4 probably, and that's not what we want. What I want is c4 where possible, if possible. So you will see me fighting about this square, even though I do appreciate that white has some ideas of trying to occupy this square with pieces. As long as I have two aiming there, it's not gonna be a long stay for them. I can also play rook g5 at some point. If kicked, I can play rook g6, so that both prevents this battery with knight f5 and h6. I don't know if it's actually a battery, if because the knight works different than a bishop and a queen. So what's the next move of our opponent? Okay, so they want the f5, which is absolutely understandable and logical, and also understandable if I did not say it just yet. So I think c4 is the move. B takes a4 would be another move that I could potentially play. And now the question is, do I want to trade my bishop for this knight now that the bishop is open? The bishop. Sorry for my Russian accent, but my question in this case would be, okay, if the bishop goes there, then I could almost get active here. Almost. Fortunately, the bishop is the piece that's gonna get active. I don't know, trading queens, offering queen trade is not gonna be a good sign for me. Putting bishop here and then trade on b5 could be a problem, as we are removing yet another defender from the g file. But could be, should be, would be. One of the options I have is queen c5, which actually looks the best from all those options. Unless there is move like knight to g4, which I've just spotted, but yeah, and that will be actually very annoying move. So I think that's the reason why I'm voting to trade that knight, because that is one knight that's gonna cause trouble, and that's something that I don't want here. I don't want trouble on my turf. But here I'm also thinking, yes, I have doubled pawns, like two sets of doubled pawns, and 1, 2, 3 sets of pawn islands, even though this pawn could potentially be understood as a pawn with with its own island, but I think I'm stopping all the shenanigans that could come out the king's way. So I'm controlling enough times on f5. I can control the f7 if need be. And there's no problem on the h5 just yet. H-file. So I can probably get a counterplay on the b file. And as long as I'm holding this pawn, I should be... could be very interesting. And I can also, in some cases, just trade this pawn and take on d5. But right now, I'm not sure I want to entertain that. So white obviously has one agenda, which is to control the f5, but I also have my agenda, which is counterattack, counterplay where possible. The question is to take or not to take, and I'm voting not to take. Just stay calm, you know. If we trade pieces, may help the defending side, which is ourselves at the moment. We are controlling all the entry squares from queen, even if this queen moves, it's controlled here. So, and there's this counterattack on the b2 pawn, which, to stop this, I think rook a2 has to be played, because rook b1 could run into a3. And that would not be very pleasant for white. And that's one of the things that I would always recommend, is to keep the position as unpleasant for your opponent as possible. And let's be honest, by taking on f6, my position got a little bit unpleasant, but I think I managed to find some counterplay. And the choices are as well, like I can imagine a scenario where take. It doesn't matter if that knight is taken or not, it doesn't change anything, but once they start defending even this way, I can try and put more pressure with the queen b3. And things can go really quickly pretty sour, because if you defend with like move like queen b1, move like a3 will be already crushing, perhaps. And to bring the other rook from g to b8, it should not be such a big deal. That could be done quickly. So white can maybe do is to play queen e2, trying to win this pawn, trying to protect this pawn. And then take, queen c4. We have rook takes b2, but then there's queen a4, and this pawn falls as well. And then it would be more about trying to create some counterplay against that king with some move like queen a7. But that's this is where it actually shows that these pawns are very weak. So my question would be to trade or not to trade, but allowing this rook into play on h-file, I don't think that's something I would want to allow. Rook b2, queen c4, queen a7, or queen b6. Be like interesting counterplay there. I'm trying to play something like a3, so there will be some rook b1s as well, trying to win the rook at the back. I feel like my position could be losing here, but at the same time, okay, this is a move that is playable, but not a move that would particularly scare me. This isn't a scary move, and I don't think in the larger scheme of things that this move would or should make me worried. The knight is protecting here. Yes, the bishop can be traded here maybe at some point. But I'm going to go down the line of counterplay. The question is actually rook. Yes, I'm going to be threatening rook b1. So if castling, then opening the f file might be actually a possibility. I think all of a sudden I'm not scared to do that. Then again, I'm not really threatening this rook because I don't feel this rook is something that I would want to be taking. So the a pawn needs to be guarded and protected, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And potentially I want to be playing f5. But let's guard the pawn here first and see what is white's plan. I feel like white's plan might be actually to try and play move like queen to f3. And in that case, I definitely want to be trading with the f5. f5, queen h5, bishop g4. There is bishop g6, but after king here, there will be knight to f5. Okay. So queen f3, f5. This actually looks dangerous now, that the queen would love to penetrate. So once again, queen f3, f5, queen h5, bishop g4. I think f5 has to be played. The issue is knight takes f5. Oh no, knight takes f5, we take bishop f5, but I think bishop g6, king g7, and now knight takes f5. Okay, so white is finding a move to save their queen, so they didn't see bishop g6 and knight takes f5, where I would be the one who would be taking an f5 with a queen. But I think bishop e6 is the move that doesn't work. because I can simply take with the queen, and now I'm up a piece. And white's queen is under attack, so what also plays for me that I have already control over the A file, even though it's not decisive control, but it's a control nevertheless. Now I believe this has to be played in quick succession. I should not be letting those pawns to maraud me too much, and also I don't want this rook. The rook will access these pawns likely. So now I need to think a little bit. So just bear with me. What is the importance of the position here? I definitely don't want to be losing pieces. I can let a couple of pawns go. Yeah, I think white will start gobbling some of these pawns, but what I'm going to do first is to trade the rooks here. Yeah, I think I'll be able to. Or I can protect this pawn and then trade the rooks and protect it one more time. White will be able to win one or two of these pawns. Ooh, if I'm adding some light, that makes things more interesting. I can see that those games are taking a lot more time. So what I will need to do is to manage my own time a bit better. Okay, so I absolutely understand what is white's idea. And allowing g4 is possible. I also feel that taking on f3 might be quite workable. Yeah, I want to take on f3 because yes, we are losing a piece which I didn't want to lose. But getting 2 pawns for it. This pawn is going to fall. This pawn is likely going to fall with it. And if rook takes here, I think knight takes g3 already is threatening to win an exchange, and white will be rushing to try and regain some of the control of the position, but it should likely fall apart. The e6 pawn is firmly under control. If I'm allowed to take on g3, then it's all good. And this knight is right now dominated by these pawns. So that was the reason why I sacrificed what I had to, what I felt like I have to. Okay, so now it's clear what is White's plan. And let's be honest, it makes total sense. So what will White want to do is to play g4 and then win this pawn. What I would want to do is to just attack this pawn and not allow it. I have a surprise move for White. If they push the g pawn, I'm going to attack here. So for Whites to take here is going to be difficult. To protect this pawn is impossible now. So I'm going to go after that pawn, because I believe none of those pawns is as important. Besides, I have this fork eventually to win one of the rooks. And after rook g3, if king h1, well, first of all, you also need to protect this knight. So this knight will definitely have to move. But this knight has no squares to move, so White is simply losing the knight. And potentially the game as well. The question is it okay to play rook h3 and then knight g3? I have plenty of time to figure this one out. But I feel like heck to the no. The taking on f3 first makes the most sense, because there could be some defense with this. One of the possible things that I can do is to attack this rook and then prepare rook h3 check, rook g2 check, and rook h1 checkmate. But after knight e3, what happens after rook d2? Well, I still have this check and taking the knight if need be. Knight e3. If rook f1, then knight takes f1. And actually knight e3, rook h3, knight a2, rook h2, and rook g2 is already a checkmate. So knight to e3, rook to d2, rook b1, king h2 only move, rook takes f3, and the game still continues, and I don't like the game to continue. So yeah, I think the safest way is just to take the knight, because if take, then there's just simply rook f1 mate. So let's not complicate things. Let's go the simple way. And I dare to celebrate already this game. But again, there was a mistake somewhere, which we will have a brief look at. I was just trying to keep the game as open as possible, and I think White had a chance to bring a lot more heat than they have. And here I think the f5 was a key move. Oh, now I remember. This was the major mistake that allowed me to have comfortable advantage in the end game, just by giving a piece back, dominating the second rank, having extra pawn. Even though these pawns were weak, there was not much white could do there. So white is giving me the pawn for exactly nothing. If I let them have a knight, that's all they can have. I can go rook h3, king g1, knight g3, threatening mate here. The only way to stop it is to give rooks for free. But there will be another free rook on d6, and again, I don't like to complicate things for sake of complication. But I don't actually need to complicate things anymore. I can just simply play here and then rook here, threatening mate on g2, which isn't possible to stop, but white will have rook takes d6. So okay, we take. There's the last minute, so I'm basically on the 10 seconds increment. So is my opponent. But the game should be completely winning. This isn't much. So I think I can go now to that line. Knight to g3. Rook f2, f2. White can deliver some checks. But the most important is I have this is a checkmate and this is a checkmate. In case he plays rook f1, that's a checkmate. He can try and defer the checkmate with rook h2. But it's over. You delivered checkmate with the rook. So new account, new perks. So if you look at the opening, as I was saying, after c3 I'm always uncomfortable because I cannot remember my own prep here. Always uncomfortable with some takings and d4s, so I need to really look into this a bit more deeper. So I just castle, and now bishop g5 comes, and that's another surprise. But I think I saw some idea where you just let whites to take on f6, but I need to find out how actually bad or good this is. So with the rook g8, as I was explaining in the game, I provoked the g3, and here I'm provoking a little bit more white, and I think white should definitely play a5 to put some bind on the b5 push. But since they didn't, I got some sort of counterplay. I had to trade the knight, as I've said earlier. And now it was all about the b file. And I think the most important moment came at this stage. I was actually probably lucky to play queen d7. If they went queen f3, then the queen f6 is like hard to stop. Oh well, actually I have king here, but then queen h5, and you already have 3 pieces here, and it could get dicey, but probably still defendable. And here I started panicking, and I think if white plays this, then I think taking is not an option, because I would have to go here, and then they have all sorts of checks that I wouldn't like to even calculate. So after bishop g6, I thought this will be the move. Obviously the queen is attacked, so you can lose the queen. But now I was thinking knight to f5. And during the game, I thought that bishop takes, knight takes, and pawn takes is still fairly dangerous. But looking at it now, it's probably totally playable line, but I would have to play maybe move like queen f7, and after trades you can see that my pawns are not so great. So you can say about white, but probably I'm not going to be so good in this position. So what I was thinking here, that I will just simply take the queen like that. And it's probably would come down to either this position, which is probably again like equalish, or this position, which is probably a slightly better version for me. So I'll just double check that when I play queen to f5, that there's no shenanigans, because we are up one piece. Some trades need to be done. You cannot really do anything because this bishop is hanging, so the trade on f5 is likely going to happen. So back to game. Bishop e6 was this big blunder that allowed us to win a piece whilst the queen is still attacked. So I think knight f5 could be opportunity to, yeah, but it's actually, I can take the queen. What am I even talking about? So actually what white could have done here, he could have returned the favor by playing the same move. And now it's not so clear. I think I missed this just like they have, because if this is taken, I don't have so much of a counterplay, and I likely have to take the queen. I can move away, but then f5 falls. So yeah, they should have taken on g4. That's what I'm thinking now. But because they didn't, that allowed me to stabilize by sacrificing. And now I think this move was highly inaccurate, I would say. But even taking here, I'm threatening knight to e2 check. So taking this pawn or that pawn, there's no time for it, I don't think. But it's still pretty much a game. So I think rook d1 was inaccurate, because here I saw that I will be able to attack the g pawn. Even if they try to push me to try and win this pawn, then I have rook g8. But here white has at least some sort of tricks, like try to keep that pawn alive. I just simply put the h5 in there, and I will be able to win this pawn. But yeah, white can at least start gobbling these pawns. So again, maybe not so clear. So rook d1, however, does not look like the pressing move, and after rook g8 it all looks really bad for white. White has not doesn't have like really good squares for this one knight. So where the knight can go is probably here. So maybe you can try something like this, but this would run still into rook g3, then king h2. Yeah, you save the knight, but you lose a couple of pawns. So I'll just show. We take. This looks forced, and then I'm winning this pawn, this last pawn, and I mean that advantage, I don't have to explain this too much. So yeah, and I think this was the safest option. I came up with some silly ideas like knight e3, or Yeah, I was thinking knight e3, but it still can get a little bit more difficult. The whole idea is to play. I'll play some move that I didn't intend to them. Well, this would actually mean the same. This was basically the idea that I will check like this. Oh, and this is already a checkmate. Yeah, I forgot that in the game I explained it, but just so you can see. From here on, I just took it safe. So what white could have done here instead of rook h8 is to play just simply rook h5 check, but I will just not bother to, remove the setup. I just want to checkmate, so I would just grab with the king whatever is on offer. So for example, like this, I'll just take it. Then you can give another rook if you like. This was only actually thing that I have seen, that if I go here and there, if white could get rid of this rook somehow, this would be a draw. But unfortunately for them, they don't have any forced way to start checking my king, so this is just simply winning. And after rook h8, rook g2 is a clear checkmate. The rook's controlling the rank, the knight is controlling the mating squares, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the game. I have to go, got some work to do, and the posting will start soon. Take care.